This was the summer of 1999. This was the summer that Back That Ass Up came out. I should have been in that video. By the way, I have several friends and high school classmates that was in that video, and I didn't get the chance to go shake my ass for the world to see 20 years later.
Hey y'all, I'm Kimberlyn, and this is The Frolicking Truth, a soft space for Black women who are tired, brilliant, and ready to heal. Here, joy meets justice. We calm our Black-ass nervous systems, we unmask, and we leave behind whatever that is trying to kill us. You're seen here, you're safe here, and you don't have to do this alone.
Come on in here, find a good spot, find a seat, kick your shoes off, grab you some tea. It's been a week and there's a lot to unpack, but I'm glad that y'all are here today for episode 12 of The Frolicking Truth for Black women who are tired, brilliant, and ready to heal, where joy meets justice and nervous systems get free. Also want to mention, even if you don't identify with any of those descriptors, that you are still welcome here, as long as you are coming ready to listen, ready to learn, and ready to support. Before I even get into the things, I need y'all to stop and I need you to like the video. All right. I need you to like the video and I need you to comment. There are also people in the chat here with me now, actually. So those are the people that are a part of my inner circle. That's what I call my Patreon. So they are in the chat and they are co-creating the show with me and talking to me during the chat. So if that's something that you're like, I want to be talking during the thing, come on into the Patreon. It's $5 a month. And that is your opportunity to really be able to learn and grow in community. We can't be talking about everything out here no more. So there's some meetings that need to happen behind closed doors, and that's where those meetings are happening. Okay, so if I'm talking to you, I'm talking to you. Come on in here and hang out. And the good thing is you get 7 days to try it out free, and you can see what happens behind the scenes. Okay. If you're watching this during the live premiere, we are also in the chat. We're talking. I'm there. So you can come in, live reactions, you can comment, you can meet the other people. It's a good time. It really is. Come hang out with us and let your voice be heard so that you are aware of what we're doing. So if y'all see me looking over there, that's where the chat is at. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm connected to the people. Okay. All right. I'm done with that. So let's get into the auntie check-in today. Let me start here. Let me say that I had a realization this week. So right before I got on here, the owners of the apartment sent me a message and said that the essential oils that I had ordered had arrived. I'm trying to make like custom diffuser blends, as well as I'm working on some products for my hair, for my skin, for my face. And I'm in the lab, right? And I know I be saying that loosely. I feel like I be saying it loosely because I feel like people don't be taking me seriously. So I had a moment and I was like, I'm a real life scientist. And I kind of need y'all to understand that, because when I'm talking about things, I'm talking from places of research and I'm talking from places of like actually being a scientist. Like I don't just play one on TV. So it made me start thinking about the research that I did when I was in college. So when I was in high school in New Orleans, I was really smart. Okay. I am really smart. I'm brilliant. But I was always at the top of my class, right? So in high school, I was number 3 in my class, but I didn't know where I was going to college until probably like April of senior year, which is wild because I had like $1 million in scholarships and I just was it was a lot going on at home. And I was just kind of like, I just need to go somewhere away from here. And I had kind of given up in some sense. And I didn't even think she was going to visit me today. So anyway, my high school guidance counselor, Well, I'm crying already. I just started this story. I didn't even tell this to be crying. My high school guidance counselor, Miss Dillon, calls me to her office. And I was the type of kid, so I went to private school. So I went to private all girls school, but also let me very much be clear that every school that I ever attended was private, and also I attended them all on scholarship, okay, because we didn't have no money. Right. So I just want to make that clear. But anyway, it gave me access to certain types of support. So Miss Dillon was my guidance counselor junior and senior year. So I was the type of kid that if I was skipping class, I was skipping to go to Miss Dillon's office so I could plan this exit because I got to get up out this house, right? So I would talk to her, but I really wouldn't talk to her about my life per se. I would just kind of be like, I was very focused. I've got to go to college. So they getting all the graduation stuff together, and they're trying to print out the programs and get the list of where the seniors are going and the scholarships they have and all this kind of stuff. And I haven't committed to anywhere. So she calls me to the office and she's like, "Where are you going to school?" And I was like, "Girl, I don't know." She was like, "What?" And I said, I'm gonna just go to LSU. LSU is Louisiana State University. I'm from New Orleans, right? So LSU is in Baton Rouge. So I was like, I'm gonna just go to LSU. At the time, there was a scholarship in New Orleans that, or I'm sorry, in Louisiana, that if you had certain grades on the ACT and SAT, that you would get a full ride. So I had that. So I was just like, I'm gonna just go there. It's free. Like I got to get out this house. Like I need y'all to understand that, right? So I say, I'm gonna just go to LSU. And she was like, "You ain't just about to do nothing. Go and get all of them applicate them acceptance letters that you got and sit your behind at that table and figure out where you finna go to school." So I'm sitting at the table and I'm like sorting the letters and I'm like, oh my God. So there was a absolutely not. So for instance, like I had a scholarship from every branch of the military. Absolutely not. Wasn't doing that. So put all those off to the side. And then like I had gone to FAM. I had a full ride to FAM, but I didn't like the culture there. So that was off to the side. And then I want to say it came down to like Oklahoma University because I had a full engineering scholarship to Oklahoma University and LSU, and I don't remember the others. I think that's what it was. And I wasn't passionate about engineering. Like I was very much like, I can do this, but I wasn't passionate, right? It would have been one of those things like, I'll just go here, right? So heavy on the just, right? So she looks to her and she said, "Well, what's up with Fisk?" And at the time, Fisk had only offered me $800. So I'm not paying for college. I don't have no money. Okay. And I worked too hard in school to have to pay to go to school. So I was like, I'm not going doing that. So she gets on the phone and she calls the director of admissions. So when the school had come to visit my high school, when Fisk had come to visit my high school, they sent somebody else that wasn't the director of admissions, but she had a personal relationship with the director of admissions. So she calls him. His name is AJ. So she's like, "AJ, I have a student here that I think y'all need to go back and review. I think y'all need to figure out what went awry because you can't be Kimberlyn Jackson. Absolutely not. This girl has a 29 on the ACT. She's a National Merit Scholar. She's got $1 million in scholarships by herself. Leadership, president of every club because I didn't want to go home. So I was president of the NHS, the Latin club, the Spanish club. Girl, I was student council. I was in the things. Okay, so she's like, "Ain't no way y'all passing on this." So he was like, "Let me look and let me call you back." So I'm sitting in the office just fully and completely just like, I don't care. Like I really don't care. So he calls back and he's like, she puts it on speakerphone. So he said, "Yolande," that's her first name. "Yolande, I reviewed what you was talking about, and this is what we want to do. Okay, we want to offer her a full scholarship. So tuition, books, fees, room and board. And I want to offer her an opportunity to do some research over the summer, and we'd like to fly her up here next week so that she can come and see the campus and make sure that this is the place for her. And I'm just sitting there like, what? Because now all of a sudden it went from, I'm going to just go to LSU to, wow, okay. Because they had only given me $800. I haven't considered them at all. Get out of here. So now, okay, all right. So I get on the plane. I go to Fisk. The moment I step foot on campus, I knew it was for me. So I make the decision. I'm going to Fisk University. So that summer before my freshman year at Fisk, it was time for me to go and report and do my research. So my advisor, and he was my advisor throughout college, but he was also my advisor for the research portion of this. His name was Dr. Gunasakaran. He was from India, and we called him Dr. Guna for short. And Dr. Guna introduced me to the world of research. So I worked in a lab and I learned how to use the lab equipment. I learned how to grow bacteria. So my college research was on Candida albicans. And Candida albicans is actually what causes yeast infections and overgrowth of Candida albicans. And I did research regarding essential oils and the effect that they would have on killing bacteria. There was all sorts of things. Like I was using photospectrometers and creating agar plates and what is it called? Electrolysis and gel electrophoresis. Like I was in the lab. Like I'm a real scientist. I'm a real scientist, and I need people to understand that because when I'm talking about things from a science perspective, I really am a scientist. And a lot of my life, a lot of my public life, and a lot of my internet life has existed like 2016 and beyond, and it's been all about education and my specialty there because I'm also an educational specialist. But before that, I was a scientist. So, anyway, so we did our research with Dr. Guna over those 4 years, and it was a group of us. There was a core group of people. This was the summer of 1999. This was the summer that Back That Ass Up came out. I should have been in that video, by the way. I have several friends and high school classmates that was in that video, and I didn't get the chance to go shake my ass for the world to see 20 years later. But anyway, that was the summer of Back That Ass Up, and it was the summer of Rough Riders. Eve and whoever the rest of the Rough Riders were. And I used to roll around the city with the people that were part of our crew. One of them had a Honda Civic, and baby, we used to be in that Honda Civic deep. Okay, I'm talking probably seven of us up in that mug, rolling to Rough Riders. That's how Rough Riders roll. Stop. Yeah, that was that summer. Yo. So anyway, thank y'all for coming down memory lane with me because I was gonna do it anyway. But thank you for being here. Watch out, cause mom, this used to be my jam. Watch out, cause mom. Hey. So anyway, that summer we used to be riding out to Rough Riders. So it was a group of us that were doing research in Dr. Guna's lab. Dr. Guna also was doing research on hydroponic plants and growing hydroponic gardens at the time. So we also got experience with understanding how that works and how you can grow food with water, even if you don't have dirt, right? So we got to participate in all of these research experiences. So we wind up going to Missoula, Montana to present our research at the University of Montana. And we flew into Spokane, Washington. And then Dr. Guna rented a van to drive us from Spokane, Washington across Idaho through Montana to Missoula. And when I tell you, I thought we was going to die on this trip. Dr. Guna was older and he had low blood sugar and he was hard headed as hell. So He is insisting on being the one who is going to do this driving. It is late in the midnight hour. So we are all in the back of this 15 passenger van praying for our lives because we're driving. Now we on the side of a mountain. Okay. We in Idaho on the side of a mountain with no guardrails, and we're driving, and this man, it would be every few seconds he would be driving, and then it would go and then he'd be driving. I thought I was gonna die on the side of a mountain in Idaho. We kept saying, Dr. Guna, let one of us drive. Like, no, because his name was the only one, because he was being cheap. His name was the only name that he put on the rental paperwork. So he didn't want to let nobody else drive, even though he was falling asleep. The trauma. The trauma. So anyway, we did make it safely to Missoula, Montana, and we presented our research. And it was the first time that I ever saw a mountain in real life, because there was a mountain behind the school, and it was the first time I had ever climbed a mountain. And I remember I had taken a rock from the top of the mountain, and I was like, I'm gonna keep this with me forever because it's the first time I've ever been on a mountain. Y'all, I have always been like this. So, anyway, I just wanted to share that story because I need y'all to understand that I'm a real scientist, that I really have done research. And so when I say I'm in the lab, I'm in the lab for reals. I'm really in here doing experiments and really thinking through what it looks like to create something custom for my unique needs. And that's a pretty cool thing. So, as I was just telling y'all all of that, I was just thinking to myself how, one, that skill set is absolutely needed, and two, how many people do not have that skill set unless you've had the specialized training. Because even remember, I had told y'all I had dated Dr. Asshole. He was a whole doctor, but he had never done research. And all doctors have not done research. Many doctors just follow the directions of what they are doing, and they're great at retaining information and recalling information, but they have not necessarily gone through the process of research to think about things in a critical nature and to really dissect and deconstruct what they are looking at to be able to come up with a specialized conclusion. All doctors have not done that, right? So when I was dating Dr. Asshole, I realized very quickly that you don't even know the other side of what you do. That's wild. Cause I was trying to wrap my mind around, I feel like any doctor or someone who works in that type of profession should have OCD. Like, I feel like you got to have a healthy dose of OCD because you understand that bacteria can cause infections. You understand that fungus can cause infections. You understand why you need to do that, right? So as I'm looking at somebody's habits, I'm like destroying my bias in front of my face because, like, you don't really understand how microorganisms work. Side note, when I moved to Tampa before I started teaching, when I was going to Tampa to study pathogenic microbiology, I was always bound to have OCD because I have grown bacteria. I have swiped things. I understand how dirty things are. So anyway, that skill set is absolutely needed. Like, it's really, really necessary in community to have someone who has a skill set like being a scientist. The other thing that I thought about is what a privilege. What a privilege it is to have a certain level of understanding and a certain level of insight and a certain level of experiences. And everybody has not been able to have that. So, like I told y'all, I went to private school from the moment I went to school. but I was always on a scholarship. So I got access into rooms and spaces and a type of education that afforded me opportunities that many others did not have access to. And it's something that I become more and more aware of, especially as I put more and more respect on my name about who I am and what I've done and the ways that I have shown up in the world and the impact that I know that I have made in the world, both in education and in science. So the more that I think about that, the more hyper aware that I become of understanding that that's a privilege. It was a privilege for me to be at a private school where Miss Dillon was able to see me, and so let me wrap up Miss Dillon. So I went off to FIS. Miss Dillon was also a Delta. So I pledged Delta with her being one of my inspirations, and she wrote a letter for me to become a member of my sorority. And then Hurricane Katrina happened in 2005, and we lost track of everybody. And I spent years looking for Miss Dillon so I could thank her, because by this time I've gotten into education and I'm doing really amazing in education. I'm mentoring teachers, I'm changing kids' lives, I'm leaving a mark. And she was my inspiration. So in 2020, it was right before. So remember, I told y'all before that I did this series of lives. One was like, let's talk about boundaries, let's talk about faith. It was a series of 3 videos, live streams that I did where I was telling people that I was about to leave. I was telling people that I felt like Harriet Tubman and I knew I needed to leave and all of that. During that time, it's COVID, so more people are on the internet. Facebook suggests Miss Dillon in my People You May Know. So I connect back with Miss Dillon, and in those lives, I'm talking to her. She bought my book. I always cry when I think about her because she didn't know. She didn't know what she was doing. And she didn't know how hard my life was. And she had no idea because I never talked about it. But that lady did not let me settle. And it felt so good 20 years later to be able to say to her, thank you for seeing me. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for not letting me give up on myself. And you don't often get a chance to go back and tell them the impact that they've had. And that's important to me. It's important to me to tell people while they are on the earth and they can hear that they matter, because so many people go through life thinking the things that they do don't matter or hoping that they matter, but to have somebody come back and be like, this made a difference. So every time I think about her, she didn't know, but she was absolutely an angel. So anyway, I got a chance to tell her all of that. And I got a chance to talk to her and meet with her and just thank her for seeing me and caring about me. And soon after that, she died. And I was just so grateful. But that was a privilege. That was a privilege to have a Miss Dillon in my life, to be able to say, you're not just about to do nothing. What are you talking about, girl? You're not doing that. And I'm not about to let you sit here and do that. No, you are going to sit at that table until you make a decision that is going to impact your future. And I just thank God that she saw that in me. But I also know there were so many people whose guidance counselors didn't guidance counsel. And it's not necessarily because they didn't want to, it's because of the system. The system is not set up for, y'all know what guidance counselor's main job is? Guidance counselor's main job is to coordinate tests. That's what they do pretty much day in and day out. Scheduling and tests. That's it. The guidance counseling of their job is probably about 10% of their job. I'm grateful that I was able to go to a school that allowed Miss Dillon to be able to see me and to put me in position to be able to say I'm a scientist and I'm an educational specialist. I'm a school improvement specialist. I'm a school climate and culture specialist. I realize that that is a privilege. What if the thing you've always called too much was the exact thing God designed on purpose? This is for the ones who've always known they were different. Too sensitive, too loud, too knowing, too intuitive, too woo-woo. But what if your sensitivity is actually your superpower? What if your intuition was your inheritance? Discover Your Destiny is a 10-week sacred journey back to yourself. We explore the design of your soul, your spiritual gifts, and the unique way that God speaks to you. This isn't church. It's not a rule book. It's not a performance. It's the moment you stop chasing approval and start walking in divine alignment. You'll gain clarity, language, and confidence around who you are and what you are here on the earth to do. You'll learn the real voice of God. And if you feel called to go on to become a certified intuitive melanated life coach, this is where that path begins. There are 2 ways to enter this sacred container: the Destiny track, full investments and coaching experience, or the Divine Exchange track, where internship meets soul work. You'll support podcasting, content creation, or brand development behind the scenes while learning how your unique gifts benefit the collective. Your knowing isn't a flaw, it's the fingerprint of God. This is your invitation, and I hope that you'll answer. The title of the episode today, man, I really started snotty nose crying, huh? We don't all start at the same line. And the US and US aligned places very much create this idea that we all start in the same place, and if you would just pick yourself up by your bootstraps, then you would be just fine, and everybody has the same 24 hours in a day, and just do better, do harder. You just lazy. That's what your issue is. You're lazy, and that's why you can't do this, right? When in essence, remember, I've talked to us before about the different types of structures that are in place that are overarching and shaping the way that we view the world on an individual level. So the myth of everybody being in the same place and everybody starting at the same line is not real. And it's very important for us to acknowledge that, because we are also trained to view people in all those ways that I just mentioned, that they're lazy and that they just didn't try hard enough, when in essence, their life is already set up for it to be harder for them. So I told y'all I've been doing these crash courses, right? And in one of the crash courses, they were talking about economics and how the working class and the poor class work themselves to death while the wealthy sip tea and bonbons and don't really do any work at all. And that is the structure that has been selected for all of us. I've talked about how that leads to dehumanization and thinking about people as products and resources to be able to utilize for our benefit. So I've talked about all those things, right? And it's important for us to connect those dots, because there's bias and there's ignorance. And some of it is willful ignorance. Others of it is just not knowing. So the word ignorant, just so you know, means to not know. We are all ignorant about something, and we all have bias about something, many things, honestly. But the work that we're supposed to do is to investigate our bias and find out information, research about our areas of ignorance. Like, that's what it means to be a critical thinker. That's what it means, in my opinion, to be a productive citizen and a person who honors humanity. Is we should continuously be investigating our thoughts and our biases to make sure that we are not causing unintentional harm. So I wanted to remind us about our brains. I just want to bring us back to this, that there are these four areas of our brain, that the bottom portion of our brain is our brain stem. That is the portion of our brain that controls the involuntary things. This is where our fight, flight, freeze, fawn response lives. Our brainstem works with our limbic area, where our amygdala lives, to trigger the fear response. The hippocampus also lives in that area. That is where our memory operates. In our prefrontal cortex, this is where our insight and empathy, decision making center lives. In the cortex is where we are thinking about our thinking, metacognition, and thinking about awareness. All right. So I want to remind us of that. And then I want to remind us of the key questions that those parts of the brain ask. So, am I safe? Am I loved and connected? Only when those two questions are answered with yes, a definitive yes, that we are able to move into our executive state of thinking, what can I learn? All right. Want to bring all that back up. So, privilege is defined as a special right, advantage, or immunity granted or available only to a particular person or group. So, on this graphic, what you see here is the axis of privilege. So, the way that it works is this bold line here is the line of domination. If it's above the line, these are privileges and society normatives, that if you have these things, that you have these privileges. Or if you align with these things, then you have these privileges. Below the line are the areas of oppression. So these are things that if you align with these particular descriptors, that you might find yourself in an oppressive state. Now, there's all kinds of stuff on this privilege axis. So, if you go to the left side above where it says domination, so genderism, for instance. So, whether you are male presenting, female presenting, along with societal norms, cisgendered lives there. So, if you present that way, that is a privilege. The next is sexism. So if you're a male, that's a privilege. The next is racism. If you're white, that's a privilege. The next is alignment with Europe. So if you have European heritage, that's a privilege. The next is heterosexism. So if you're a heterosexual, you have privilege. Wealthyism. So where you land within your wealth and financial stability, that's a privilege. Disableism, not being disabled, having good mental health is a privilege. Education, having credentials and degrees is a privilege. Ageism, being younger is a privilege. There's even a politics of appearance. Being an attractive person is a privilege. So if we continue, there's classism, upper and middle class. Upper middle class is a privilege. Language bias, being being able to speak English, and being able to speak English in an accent that aligns with quote unquote middle America, which, do y'all know that that accent is made up? Do y'all know that the middle American accent is made up? It's not even real. They made it up. Go figure. But anyway, being able to have that particular expression of the English language is a privilege. Next is colorism. Being light or pale skinned is a privilege. Next, we have anti Semitism. And interestingly enough, I don't believe this to be true. I believe this is actually the opposite. But with anti Semitism, being considered a Gentile or a non Jew is on this graphic saying it's a privilege. I disagree with that. Um, and the last is pronatalism, fertile. Are you able to bear children? That is a privilege. So then on the bottom are the areas where that are the opposite of that. So these are places where you might experience oppression. any type of gender deviance, being a woman, being a Black minority or a person of color, being non-European, a part of the LGBTQ plus population, being poor or financially insecure, disabled or mentally ill, non-literate, old, unattractive, working, English as a second language or an additional language, because usually people that English is an additional language speak more than just those two languages. They usually speak about three or four. But anyway, English as an additional language, being dark skinned. We already talked about my views on that, but being Jewish and being infertile. So this axis of privilege, I don't know where I found this and where when I started understanding it and like really utilizing it and thinking about it and unpacking it, but it really made me think about how when we usually talk about privilege, we only talk about white privilege, and that's only one type of privilege. So if we don't talk about these other types of privileges, what happens is we wind up using our privilege to oppress other people. And it can be the slightest microaggressions. So, for instance, the other day I was watching Michelle Obama's podcast with her brother. It's called IMO, in my opinion. And they had former President Barack Obama on there. And I love Michelle and Barack, and I really appreciate them and who they are and what they did for the image of Black people. And just, it was just a different time. And I appreciate them. I also have issues with policy, but them as people, I appreciate them. And I bring it up because the conversation was about a single mother raising a son, and she wanted to know how to like best raise her son. And they were talking a lot about the concepts of masculinity and what that looks like and sounds like. And there were certain times throughout that they made assumptions that this child, or it might have been a couple boys that the mama had, that they were heterosexual. So they were saying things like they are gonna want a wife who does this, or they're gonna need to do this for young ladies, or they'll need to do that for young ladies. And it would just kind of really erased that whoever their partner might be, they'll need to show up as this. But that's a place where bias lives. And there were times throughout it that they would say, or partner, or they might be homosexual. They said at one point, they might be gay at one point. But because this is an area that I've actively been working on and showing up more intentional with my language, I've noticed, I was like, that's a place that bias lives. And that bias of thinking about things in a heteronormative lens can create harm unintentionally because now you've erased someone else's experience. So privilege causes, y'all know how when y'all go to the doctor, to the eye doctor, now I can't see, y'all might be able to see, but I can't. I'm very blind. But you know, when you go to the eye doctor and they be like lens one, lens two, one or two, three or four, right? And you're supposed to go and fine tune it. The particular fine tuning that your particular recipe of privilege causes means that there are blind spots and you're missing somebody else's story. We all have it. But our goal is to go back and think about how I can bring those stories to the forefront and how I can educate myself so that I'm not causing unintended harm. So I have this graphic that I want to show y'all. This information is inspired by a book that I read called The Framework of Poverty by an author called Ruby Payne. And there's been a lot of controversy about her work, and I'm not here for that. You can put it in the comments though, but I'm not here to debate that. But I thought that this particular portion of what she was talking about was pretty impactful. The chapter was like framing the difference of the norms that you might experience depending on the world that you live in. So at the top, we have the three wealth classes. So we have poverty, middle class, wealthy class. Realizing also, though, that middle class is not necessarily really existent. So middle class is kind of like I'm 2 to 3 paychecks away from not being able to function, whereas poverty is like I'm living day to day kind of. Okay, so we have poverty, middle class, and wealthy class. Then along the left border, we have each of the categories that we're going to talk about. So money, possessions, time, food, clothing, and personality. So remember just a moment ago, and I see you're coming here. Great analogy with the glasses lens. Yeah, so I'm about to come right back to that. So when I was talking about this fine tuning, like what it looks like for your particular fine tuning of privilege that you have had that makes you view the world the way that you view the world. So people that have lived day to day in poverty, when they think about money, for instance, they think about money as something to spend, something that you spend on relationships, that you spend on status, that you spend on things. Middle class people think about money as something that you budget and something that you use for stability. Wealthy class people think about money as something that you conserve or that you invest. So if you're someone who understands, for instance, how the stock market works, and you understand how to invest and make your money grow for you and use life insurance to be able to fund your this and that and never put anything in your name and only put it in a trust, that's a privilege. That's not information that everybody has, and it's ascribed to a certain type of people that view the world a certain type of way because of the certain brand of privilege that they got. Next, we have possessions. People who have lived in poverty, people are valued most. So they're not really necessarily attached to things per se. It's really about people. Middle class, possessions are used for utility, for ease, for comfort, and they usually align with certain social norms. When wealthy class people think about possessions, they think about possessions in regard to heirlooms and legacy and status symbols. When we think about time, people who live in poverty think about time as right now. They're living day to day. We're in survival mode. I don't know if I'm eating tomorrow, so I can't talk to you about next week. What are you talking about today? What is happening today? Am I going to have somewhere to live today? Middle class thinks about the future. So I'm putting away for the kids' college. I'm thinking about putting things in a savings account. So it's really about career and security. Wealthy people think about time, about history and tradition. So they're keeping the legacy alive. They're within, they often come from old money. So this has been around for a while. Food. People who live in poverty are thinking, did I have enough? Do I have enough? Will I have enough today? Middle class people think about food as, did I enjoy it? Wealthy class people think about food. How was it presented? What did it look like on the plate? Right? If you think about any of you who have had access or even seen pictures of food that is at very expensive restaurants, it's not a lot of food usually. But the presentation, oh, it's cute, but it's not really a lot. Clothing for someone who lives in poverty is about self-expression and comfort. A middle class person would be about quality and social acceptance, while a wealthy class person, it would be about designer or what designer it is or what artistic statement are they making. And then lastly is personality. So people who grow up in poverty often think about personality as entertainment. So oftentimes they are really funny. There is distracting, like everything is like, let me distract myself from what I am experiencing. So oftentimes going to entertainment. Middle class people are often very achievement focused and really thinking about the next goal, the next thing, like we need to do this, we need to do that, get the things in a row, get everything in order. And wealthy class people really use their personality for connections and influence. So I know that was a lot, but I want to add one more layer to that. So when we're looking at this column of poverty and looking at the way that people who have grown up in situations where they have experienced a low socioeconomic status, food insecurity, housing insecurity, especially when we think about money and time and food, when we think about those things, it reminds me of this graphic, which is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is what we need foundationally to be able to get to a place of self actualization, which is supposed to be where we are wanting to be the best person that we can be, that stuff that lives in that upstairs brain. So, where we are thinking about metacognition and thinking about our thinking and analyzing our thoughts, that lives up there, right? At the base of Maslow's hierarchy of needs are our physiological needs: air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, and reproduction. These are the things that we need to be able to survive personally as well as keep life going. Right above that are our safety needs of personal security, employment, resources, health, and property. Now, remember, I showed y'all on our brain that our brainstem is asking the question, am I safe? Our limbic area is asking the question, am I loved and connected? And I keep saying to us, until we are able to answer those two questions definitively, we cannot get to the executive state where it says, what can I learn? So coming back over here, when we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we have to be able to have those physiological needs in place, as well as those safety needs in place, as well as next is love and belonging. So friendship, intimacy, family, sense of connection. Next is esteem, respect, self esteem, status, recognition, strength, and freedom. Both of those live in the area that's asking, am I loved and connected? Am I loved to other people? Am I connected to other people? Do I love myself? Am I connected to myself? And at the very top, we have self actualization, which again lives in the upper portion of our brain. So, when I talk about all of these things, I'm doing my best to connect these concepts because there's a lot of vitriol right now that is being thrown towards people who are living in conditions that they are not fully responsible for having to be in those conditions because the system has created a situation where they are held in bondage in those situations because it's expensive to be poor. It's expensive to have to eat day to day. Right. It's expensive that you can't go to Costco and buy things in bulk, that you have to buy things in smaller packages. That's expensive. It's expensive when you're doing rent month to month as opposed to a long-term lease, but you can't do a long-term lease because maybe you're working day to day. Like these are the lives of many people around the world, but specifically in the US, many working class people, as well as a lot of immigrants that have been fueling the country. And remember what I said is that the poor and working class people are the people that have fueled the country, while the wealthy get to sit and just kick their feet up and play games, simulation games, play the Sims with everybody else that is trying to get their lives together. So I wanted to really just bring that to our attention because it's really important for us to think about our privilege and using our privilege as a call to action, not a way to shame ourselves. Is really a time to reflect and hold ourselves accountable to community and seeing people. You know, like I talked about Miss Dillon, like her being able to see something in me to invest her time and energy into me, even though she didn't know what was happening, right? So that she had a particular series of life experiences that caused her to be like, no, I need to make sure I look out for her. And I can relate to that because there are so many kids over my career. I still talk to a good number of my students today, whether it be on social media or every so often, they'll reach out. It is a privilege to be seen. So we want to make sure that we use our privilege to be able to see and that we use our privilege as a way to be able to bring somebody else with us and to contribute to the community as a whole. You know, whether that be to organizing and supporting people who are disadvantaged or being a mentor. Don't discount a one-to-one relationship and how much that can sow into the future. It matters, you know? So, our soul work for this week is to think about the privileges that you have that others may not, and to then think about how you want to use that privilege to help yourself and to help others. Amazing slides and information. I didn't think about privilege in that way and about not everyone being equal, but being judged unfairly about where they are in life. There's an activity that I do during IMLC. So, IMLC is Intuitive Melanated Life Coaching. And one of the activities is a privilege walk, because there are so many different ways that we have privileges that we may not know about, like having access to books, like speaking English, for instance. I talked about speaking English as far as speaking it in this middle America accent, but when I lived in the US, speaking English was a privilege. Everyone who's born in the US who grows up speaking English, that is a privilege. That don't do me no good here in Colombia because they do not speak English here. So it was like an immediate awakening for me to be like, man, sure wish I would have listened in all those Spanish classes. Like that would have been a privilege, right? But even having said that, it was easy for me to pick up Spanish because I took Latin when I was in high school, and I took 2 years of Spanish, and I told y'all I was a part of the Spanish club because I didn't want to go home. So I at least had the foundations of knowing the alphabet and understanding how to pronounce the letters correctly. That's a huge part of speaking the language, right? So that is a privilege. So there are so many areas in life that privilege exists. So that's your job, is to do an audit about the different areas of your life where privilege exists, and to really be able to think about how you can use those areas to help yourself and to help others, and to really just interrogate your bias, to really look and find the places where you might have bias that you didn't realize that you had, and then start to honor that and think about what that looks like and sounds like for other people. Okay. All right. Frolicking in the feed is the next segment. And I was kind of sad. Kind of probably is not even doing a good job of explaining it. Malcolm-Jamal Warner passed away this week. And Malcolm-Jamal Warner was most famously known for being Theo on The Cosby Show as a child actor. That is where he entered many of our lives. And his one of his episodes that are my favorite was the episode when he was going to move out, and he was saying he wanted, I don't even know if he was saying to move out, but he said he wanted his own apartment. He wanted to do what he was going to do. And then he came home and they had turned the house into an apartment and the restaurant, and everybody was in on it. And Denise was in the kitchen and she was fixing them something to eat. And the whole time she was writing a bill down. It cost so much. And then he went and got Cockroach to be his attorney so that he could negotiate the lease. And Rudy was the banker, and Vanessa. It was just a whole family thing, and I just loved it so much because it really made me think about all the parts that go into being an adult. And don't try to rush it, Jesus. Don't. It never ends. It never ends. But that was one of my favorite episodes. And Theo also had dyslexia. And so he had difficulty in school and learning how to read. And he was a mentor. So he worked down at the community center with the kids. And The Cosby Show ended where he was going off to college. The Cosby Show is one of the shows that, so my family did sit down and eat dinner every day in the midst of everything else. That was crazy. But the requirement was that we sat down and ate dinner, and we would often watch The Cosby Show during those times. So it really is bright spots in my childhood of thinking about the impact that Theo had and the impact that Malcolm-Jamal Warner had as the actor. One of the things that I appreciated about him is that every statement that I've seen has talked about how good of a person he was and how much he cared about other people and how kind and authentic he was, and even the things that he has recorded for of his own, like on his own social media or interviews or what have you. Just about 2 months ago, I think there was a podcast episode that came out, and he was saying, when I leave here, I want people to say that I was a good person and that I was kind to people. And it very much is manifesting. And it really resonates with the way that I try to live my life. Like, I really do my best to live my life in a way that people will say I left them better than I found them. I just told y'all last week, I was saying to myself, am I finna die soon, Lord? This just really made me reflect, because one of the things we don't do enough, I think, is talk about death. Like, I really do think that we need to do a better job at talking about death, because I was also watching The Shy. I was catching up on The Shy. And there was a situation where people keep getting shot. Like, my God, today they're just shooting everybody. And Lynn Whitfield's character was telling Tiffany, I can't remember the lady name right now, y'all, but she was telling Tiffany that she wanted to secure things so that if anything happened, oh, I don't want to spoil it. So somebody had got shot. And then Tiff needed to go, because Tiff is pregnant. So she needed to go and like shore up things for the baby and make sure that everything is good to go. And Lynn Whitfield's character is the grandmother of Tiff's baby. So she's like, I need to make sure that my grandchild is okay. I need to make sure you're okay because you're the mother of my grandchild. Like, I need to, make sure. And Tiff had at one point was like, I mean, nothing's going to happen to me. And Lynn Whitfield's character said, I thought the same thing about my son, because her son got shot and killed in a previous episode. So, anyway, the reason I bring it up is because a lot of times we shy away from these conversations. And what happens is the people that we leave behind are left to pick up the pieces, and they're left to try to figure everything out. And I feel like the best gift that I can give people is that they don't have to use that time where they are grieving to try to do extra thinking about what needs to happen, and doing logistics and getting upsold for what they call the caskets. And like, I feel like the best gift that you can give somebody is to put attention into what happens when you pass, because one, we all gonna die. Okay, I don't know if y'all knew that, but we are. And two, do you know how many like families like fall apart and things like get ripped apart because the person who passes was thinking they had more time, so they didn't put attention into that. So it made me just want to get real, like sit down and really think through what the plan is for the people who are connected to me, so that they are not trying to figure it out. One thing I'm going to say here very clearly, I don't want no funeral. Don't buy no casket. I really don't even want you to buy an urn. Burn me up. Okay. What I really want though is to be turned into a tree with yellow flowers. That's what I really want. I haven't picked out the actual tree yet, because I don't know if I'm gonna be here in Colombia or not. But I want to be turned into a tree with yellow flowers. Burn me up, plant the tree, put me in there as fertilizer, water that thing and keep it pushing. You feel me? Let me oxygenate the earth. Don't be out here spending no money on no funeral and no caskets for me. Don't do it. So if y'all, so then that's why I'm recording this, because if anybody see this in the future and they're like, oh, she would have wanted a beauty, they lying. I don't want it. Okay. But yeah, I want to challenge us to think through what that looks like. One of the activities in Discover Your Destiny is for people to think about what they want people to say when they pass, like in their eulogy. Like, how do you want people to regard you when you leave here? And I know that can sometimes be uncomfortable, or maybe even like, I don't care what people say. Okay. But also, what What legacy are you leaving? So thinking about all of that intentionally is really what Malcolm-Jamal Warner's death reminded me of. I pray that everything was taken care of, and that I believe he was married and had children, that his family, whoever they are able to find peace and comfort in that, and that it doesn't cause a lot of disruption and fracturing in the family. But yeah, I think it's time for us to start having these conversations, and with our parents, they probably might be resistant, don't know, but it's going to happen. So how can we have the conversations in a gracious way, and in a way that honors life and legacy, as opposed to it becoming, a omen for that we finna die? Just my 2 cents. So that's what I found frolicking in the feed this week, and I hope that that leaves something on your spirit to kind of internalize. So, this is not really a pack your bags segment per se, but I do want to say that it's time to start minimizing some things, because it's a lot, y'all, that's going on. So, I really need us to like minimize the things so that we can get ready to transition in whatever ways that we might need to get to transition into. All right. So, when we're thinking about things right now, we need to be thinking about functionality. Why do I need this, and what function is this serving? We need to be thinking about things that serve multiple functions, right? We need to be thanking and releasing ourselves from things that are just taking up space just for the sake of taking up space. Now is a time where we really want to start asking ourselves about the type of energy that we have around us, because we are going to have to remain grounded as things continue to escalate. And let me be very clear, things are going to continue to escalate. Things are not about to slow down. We're not going to wake up tomorrow, next week, next month, and all of a sudden, whoo, everything done got back to normal. That is not what's about to happen. Things are going to continue to escalate and escalate and escalate and escalate. Okay. And if you have not been paying attention to what has been happening around the world, I need us to take a moment to try to understand, because the US is involved in actively getting rid of the Palestinian people, actively. And it has entered phase 5, which is an irreversible genocide. So if they will do that there, why do we think that they would not do that to us when they are actively in the process of rolling back rights every single day? So our role in all this is to start getting ready to insulate. So, having said that, I wanted to give you a strategy that you can use. I guess this really is a segment. I want to give you a strategy that you can use to really start analyzing the things that you have in your life, so that you can, every time you feel it, just get rid of things that you won't be needing and that are around just for the sake of being around. And it is asking yourself if things genuinely bring you joy. So, one, I need y'all to identify something that actually brings you joy. Something, someone, but let's start with things, because ones are a little bit harder. So think about the things that you have in your life. Do those things bring you joy? And I mean everything, right? So I'm sitting here at my desk. I have my stand for my phone. I have a Bluetooth. I have chapstick, and I have my mouse and my mic. One thing I can say right now that's not bringing me joy is the fact that these headphones is taped because this cord got a shortage in it. That's not bringing me joy right now. So guess what needs to happen? I need to find a way to find me a cord that I'm going to be able to use, that is not going to cause me frustration in my spirit. Right now, in this particular case, this is a replacement. This is a one-to-one, right? So I'm going to get rid of this cord and I'm going to give me a new cord, a cord that actually brings me joy. But I might be like, I don't even want I don't even want corded headphones anymore. I just want them to be wireless, right? So then in that case, I would get wireless headphones and get rid of the ones that don't bring me joy. But I want us to be thinking again about functionality in all of that. Okay. So how many functions can this particular thing that I'm saying that I need, how many functions does this thing have, and how is it going to add to my well-being? So I had told y'all, oh, it's over there. I had told y'all, I don't know if I told y'all this, but someone had given me a massage gun. And I am just so grateful because my shoulders be hurting bad. So that is something that brings me joy that I will be creating space for because it is important to me, right? We asking ourselves the question. That's the phase. I realized I was like, I need to give us some action steps because the things on the news, crazy. And they're only gonna get crazier. They're only going to get crazier. So we got to get ourselves in formation. Okay. We've got to get ourselves ready and in line to understand what's happening. All right. So that's your homework, not your soul work. That's your homework to go through your things and think about what brings you joy, what doesn't bring you joy, and getting rid of the things that may not bring you joy. All right. All right. Now, quick giggle break before we get out of here. So, Kalanda and I have a podcast called So You Don't Put Syrup on Your Grilled Cheese. Also, I'm going to try to stop doing this because it be looking like I'm pointing. That's just me talking, but I'm going to do a better job. All right. But anyway, Kalanda and I have a podcast called So You Don't Put Syrup on Your Grilled Cheese. And we really be laughing. So I wanted to share this clip with y'all because I want y'all to go over. We just had a new episode on Sunday. So I want y'all to go over and listen to the new episode, but also I want to see what's going to happen today. All right. So this is the clip. The robots are taking over, bro.
They
Said, sing me a song. Girl, why she started rapping, girl? My name is Alexa. I remind you of the calendar. Sing a song, Alexa. Let's see what she come up with today.
I've been thinking a lot about what makes people happy. I've made a list, spend time asking why. It's the sand beneath your toes.
It's the sand beneath your toes. When stars shine bright on the warm summer's night.
Yes, Lord.
Girl, why is she still singing? This is enough. I've had enough. Alexa.
She gave you a full production. Off. She said, don't play me.
I'm done. Girl, Alexa be in her. I gotta stay in her name. Damn, she gonna keep
she's
up.
answering. She said, I clocked in. I'm ready for work.
So I want to see what Alexa is talking about today. So let's see. Alexa, sing a song.
Doggies are all I want to see. Doggies, they're all so friendly. Doggies, I just want doggies. And that's cause doggies are so lovely.
Why is she singing about dogs, y'all? Greyhounds.
Why there's cockapoos, Dachshunds, who chew your favorite shoes. Oodles of lovely poodles. A canine comrade will always amuse.
Yo, doggies. She talked about greyhounds, cockapoos. What else she said? German Shepherd. She about to say it. Yo, Alexa, off. Enough. Somebody said, can Alexa sing Back That Thing Up? She probably just gonna play the song. Alexa, do you know Back That Thing Up?
According to Wikipedia, Back That Thing Up is a song written by Jeremy Stover and Randy Houser.
Girl, that's not... Girl, she done missed the mark. Alexa, do you know Back That Ass Up? She turned off. Alexa, play Back That Ass Up.
Okay, Back That Is Up, explicit, and similar
Back
songs
That Ass Up
on Amazon Music.
Oh, that's how we finna end the show, y'all. Alexa, off. Y'all finna get me in trouble. All right, I gotta go. So, anyway, I want y'all to ask y'all Alexas if y'all have them. I want y'all to ask them to sing y'all a song and see what they come up with. I don't know why she chose to sing about doggies. I love doggies, but also, why was that the song? Girl. It's enough. So yeah, y'all let me know in the comments when you ask your Alexa what to sing a song. Just ask her to sing a song and see what she comes up with and tell me the genre and what it was about. All right. Okay, so as I'm rolling out of here, I want to remind you all again to join me in the inner circle. When I was saying it's a lot to talk about and all of that, like it's a lot of planning that we need to be doing behind the scenes. Like I'm going to be calling a family meeting probably next week with people that are in the inner circle and people that are important to me because we need to figure out how we organize it because what is happening. So anyway, if you are a part of the inner circle, then you will also be invited to that meeting and to that invitation for us to make sure that we're showing up for each other and that we are honoring what is actually happening, practicing radical acceptance, and really thinking about the mobilization part of all of this that's going on. So look out for that. If you want to be a part of that, I need you to join the inner circle. If you go to patreon.com/mindingmybblackassbusiness, then you will be able to join the inner circle. Okay. The other thing is this week, we will have the healing circle this week. So the healing circle is a space for Black women who are tired, brilliant, and ready to heal, a space for us to be able to gather in community as well as receive a moment to have a collective breath and to do some somatic exercises to move energy through our bodies. So if that's something that sounds like something you need and or want, please do go to tinyurl.com/Black Women Healing Circle. Again, tinyurl.com/Black Women Healing Circle. And there you will be able to register. Please know that when you do come to the healing circle, I do ask for you to turn on your camera so that I can verify that you are indeed a Black woman, and that is for safety. So please do be ready for that. But other than that, it's a space for you to come and be held and just have a moment to be able to be. So tinyurl.com/Black Women Healing Circle. Like the video, y'all. Share and subscribe. Okay. Like the video. I do want to say, hey, so we just crossed 1,300 followers over on the YouTubes. Yeah. I'm so glad that y'all are here. So what that says to me is that the algorithm is giving us to the people that are looking for us. Okay. So I also would love your support in that. By liking, subscribing, sharing. It is all very free ways for you to be able to support what we have going on here. So please do take a moment to do that. So our closing quote for today is by Malcolm X. When I is replaced with we, even illness becomes wellness. So I want us to carry the truths that we talked about today, realizing that we all do not start at the same place or the same line. So as we are moving throughout the world, I want us to remember our awareness is not just for reflection, it's for movement. It's for movement towards each other, towards equity, towards joy, towards peace. So if you have something that others don't, let's not hoard and let's actually take the time to use it and share it and build with it. That's how we rise. That's how we protect each other. That's how we insulate ourselves from the outside forces that are working to make sure that we stay in the wheel and stay in survival mode. So that's all I have for today. I love y'all so much. I appreciate y'all so much for being here and hanging out. Please do share in the comments something that has resonated with you. And I will see y'all next time. Bye.
Thank you for listening to The Frolicking Truth, where joy meets justice and our nervous systems get free. Please be sure to like, rate, and comment. Subscribe to the YouTube page, Minding My Black Ass Business, and follow me on all social platforms. Until next time.